I'm Louie DiBiase, host of the Locked On Eagles podcast, and on today's squad show, something I want to talk about. This offense is going to see a lot of change this offseason. Get ready.
All right, I'm Marc Farzetta of Locked On Eagles squad show, and Howie and Nick both addressed the media. One interesting takeaway, and also one more thing that was enraging that has to do with this season. Talk about that and more in this edition of Locked On Eagles squad show on the Locked On Eagles YouTube channel.
Fly, Eagles, fly. It's the Eagles Squad. Everything Philadelphia Eagles every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from the city of brotherly love. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Eagles Squad show starting now.
And welcome into this edition of Locked On Eagles Squad Show. This particular episode is brought to you by none other than the FanDuel app. If you want to be right in the middle of the action this season and this postseason, visit FanDuel.com and place your NFL live bets all postseason long. First off, let's address the pink elephant, the whatever it is, right? The monkey in the room. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just Louie. It's just me. No Jason. No Harry. Jason, another obligation. Harry, little vacay time.
We had to make
well
cap
earned
cuts,
after
Mark.
the season.
We had to save some salary cap space. It's the offseason, so we got to save some money.
Yeah. Exactly. We traded him away. We pulled a Howie Roseman. We'll be getting members in from like Locked On Jets. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
I don't know. But we got a lot to cover on today's program. As I mentioned, Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni addressed the media. One really interesting takeaway from that, also the next OC. I mean, let's get to the meat and potatoes that everyone wants to talk about. Who will be the next Eagles offensive coordinator and what that's going to look like for everybody else. The worst part of 2025, I came across a stat, Louie, that it's one of those things I had to read multiple times. And then after I looked at it like a confused dog, it finally computed as to what it meant for this Eagles offense. So we'll get to that. A.J. Brown, we talked about a little bit on last show. We'll revisit it again today because a lot of it comes down to just the numbers of this, and I'm not talking about yards. I'm not talking about receptions. I'm not talking about touchdowns. I'm talking about the money when it comes to A.J. Brown. And then playoff picks. We'll get into that for this weekend for the teams that are still in the postseason, unlike the Philadelphia Eagles. But, Louie, let's start with this. 25 minutes, Nick Sirianni and Howie Roseman addressed the media. There was one thing, let me just start with this, that I noticed. I want to know if you picked up on this.
Yeah.
And it's got nothing to do with a quote. It's got nothing to do with a coordinator. Did you notice one thing that was different about the Nick and Howie joint press conference that was different than other Nick and Howie joint press conferences?
I mean, for me, it was that Nick talked more than Howie. Normally, there's a lot of questions for Roseman, and it was all about Sirianni in this one.
I on my show this morning, I even said, usually it's Howie answering all these questions, and he has to go, hey, guys, by the way, Nick's here. You know, Nick, he's our coach and everything. Or, hey, Nick, you want to take that one? Like, he'll have to tee up Nick Sirianni. For whatever reason, I don't know what, Nick was getting the vast majority of the questions in this one.
Yeah.
And maybe because he's on the field, he's the guy that's there next to everybody when the calls are being made. He's doing the game plan, and they fired the offensive coordinator, and he supposedly took more of a role or did take a bigger role and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought that was an interesting thing to pick up from it. Now, when it comes to what was said, what jumped out to you from Nick and Howie, either of them really, when they were addressing the media? What are your takeaways from that 25-minute presser?
Howie Roseman went out of his way to be very complimentary of Nick Sirianni when he probably didn't have to be, because what you said is right. Nick Sirianni had to talk more because this year's problems, there wasn't a debate about, was this on Howie Roseman and the roster he built? Like 2023, you can argue he didn't do enough on the defensive side of the ball to carry things on from that 2022 season. It wasn't just on Nick. This year's problems were clearly a result of Nick Sirianni-led decisions. And so Howie didn't really have to go out of his way to be complimentary, but he was. He talked about how Nick is an elite culture setter, a motivator, a hands-on talent developer, in-game. Even if you don't agree with it, he said he's great at in-game decisions. He's a great game manager, and these are the things that they value in the head coaching spot. And so I do think it is clear inside that building, for maybe it's different motivations, it is clear they value Nick's strengths more than we do outside the building. I think a lot of us put emphasis on offensive schemers, play callers. That's what we want in that position. And if you don't do that, I think I don't want to say underrate coaches, but that's something that we place a lot of emphasis on. And maybe they do inside that building as well. But I think they see it more complex, less black and white than we do. And also it's because Nick allows them to kind of have the power. There's a lot of coaches after 5 years of this kind of success that wouldn't let their GM and owner just come back in and pick their coaching staff. Doug Peterson didn't after 2020. He put his foot down, and Nick does. And I think that's also something that they value, and I don't think he's going anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think so either. I don't think the number one, and here, talk about things that people don't want to hear, the number one thing on the resume for any coach of the Philadelphia Eagles is Howie does his job, Jeffrey does his job. Those are the two guys in charge. You are number 3, and there's a
you got to be allowed
there.
you got to be willing to let them tinker with your job.
Right? Yeah, you have. In other words, they're going to pick your guy. In other words, which is another thing that I thought was interesting as a takeaway from Nick Sirianni was how he talked about wanting to be an elite head football coach. Not an elite offensive mind.
Right.
Not an elite play caller, obviously. Not even an elite, and this goes without saying, defensive mind. Yeah. But he would be an elite head coach. I still believe, regardless of the resume, which is fantastic of Nick Sirianni, all the things the team has accomplished since he's taken over, you can't dispute it. But I still find it amazing that you really can't pinpoint what he does great. Like the question has been asked over the last couple of days, if he got fired, would coaches or would teams be chomping at the bit to get him? Would he be the lead candidate? Would he be there with the John Harbaugh? Would he be there with Mike Tomlin in terms of guys that they want to take over other organizations, other franchises? Well, I got to have Nick Sirianni run the Raiders or whoever, right?
Right.
I don't know if that's the case because I think people around the NFL aren't dumb. They realize that Jeffrey Lurie's an owner that will sign any check as long as it means you win. They realize that Howie Roseman is a phenomenal procurer of talent in the league. So they're giving Nick a pretty nice deck of cards to play. They're dealing him a pretty good hand. So I think most teams in the NFL realize that. So when you think about what it is that Nick Sirianni does well, I think he realizes what he is, which this is a guy that knows how to he knows how to run a meeting and he knows how to delegate. I mean, I think, look, I hate to give him credit for ultimately something he failed at, but I give him credit for realizing, all right, in the early goings, I always imagined when I took over a team, I'd be the play caller and the head coach, but yeah, that ain't for me. And he gave that to Shane Steichen. A year later, the Eagles are playing for a Super Bowl. I think that is something that is actually worth an applause. Okay. That has been a problem for Nick Sirianni, though, is that if he doesn't do those exact things like call plays, people wonder what is it that he does. And that's still a legitimate question. But if what he does do in an organization, as long as he has a competent defensive coordinator and a competent offensive coordinator, he can go out there and he can win a lot of football games with whatever his piece of that pie is. So acknowledging that he just wants to be an elite overseer and be that CEO coach that people talk about, I think it is worth another applause that he is willing to say, whoever's going to come in here, it's going to be his offense. Yeah, it's going to be their responsibility. I'm going to be the guy that's going to be chiming in here and there in any area that I can. He called it his area expertise, whether it's protecting the football, whether it's ball security, whether it's taking the football away, whether it's catching, whatever it might be, wide receivers. Right. That's what he's going to get in on. So he does work well with others. And whatever those quarters that he does drop in from time to time when he adds his own sense into the matter, it seems to overall work, with the exception, most glaringly, of this year. And this is where I have the big problem, Louie.
Yeah.
The most infuriating part of the season for me was the final 43 seconds of their only playoff game this year, and that's obviously against the 49ers, and the famous clip of Nick Sirianni, Kevin Patullo, and Jalen Hurts in the huddle.
Yeah.
So Nick Sirianni talked about it yesterday that he got more involved. It was alluded to throughout the season by both Nick and Jalen Hurts. And I didn't need Nick Sirianni to take over as the play caller, but I would think in those final moments of the season, 43 seconds left, you're playing for your playoff lives, Louie. Mm-hmm. I would think in that huddle, if you were taking on more responsibility because you've acknowledged the problem that Kevin Patullo is already many times over to this point, Nick Sirianni would be the guy talking, not Kevin Patullo. And you wouldn't have just Patullo talking and Hurts questioning in that moment.
Yeah.
You said it. That is a really bad look, but even more so, it's just a terrible idea when you have already acknowledged the Patullo problem, and he's the guy that essentially is holding the season in his hands in that play chart and the microphone to his mouth trying to get that play in or call that play to Jalen Hurts. How is that at all look good on whatever it is that Nick Sirianni brings to the table?
No, it doesn't. And that's why I agree with your take. If he was in this open pool of head coaching candidates right now, I think he would probably get a job because it's not a super strong class. But I agree with you. People aren't just running to the table to get this guy. Like, there's a lot of coaches that the minute they get fired, even Andy Reid after he left the Eagles or Harbaugh, like, people want that coach instantly. I think there would be a lot of questions within buildings of, is Nick the right fit? Because you're correct, man. Like, you look at that video, it's a bad look. They all looked clueless. Like, they had no answers. I don't think Nick Sirianni is the guy that, when they hired him, they did have the intent of him being a play caller, just like Doug Peterson was, just like Chip Kelly was, just like Andy Reid was. That's what Jeffrey Lurie wants in a head coach, is an offensive mind and a play caller. And I don't think he is that schemer. He is that play caller. That video shows it. And that's why I don't think he would work elsewhere, because there's not a lot of teams that are willing to bring in head coaches nowadays, unless you have a 15-plus year track record like a Harbaugh or a Tomlin. You don't want that CEO head coach. Normally, head coaches that get hired are play callers. And I think Nick has proven that. I don't think he has that strength elsewhere across the league. But again, the Eagles are such a unique setup organizationally, the power structure, where you kind of need a Sirianni that is self-aware, that understands he might not be that guy. Because again, Chip Kelly wanted personnel say he was not okay with the power structure. Doug Peterson eventually wasn't either. The Eagles, Howie Roseman and Jeffrey Lurie, kind of need that, because they're not going to change their dynamic. They're going to point to all of their success, not just in this era of 3 Super Bowls appearances, 2 wins, but the entire 21st century when they've been the most consistent NFC team in the NFL. They're not going to change. So that's why I think they're doubling down on Nick. Is I think they need this kind of coach, but I don't think he has a lot of strengths that would work across the league. I just think it's him and Jalen are very similar, where it's just a unique setup where I think they both work here, but I don't know if they would work across the NFL.
Yeah, and I also think the Eagles are in this carousel, this revolving door, this vicious cycle of, oh, we've had success, now we got to lose a play caller. It's one thing to lose an offensive coordinator. It's another thing to lose the play caller.
That's the difference.
That's what, unfortunately, that's where the Eagles obviously are lacking and going to be in the vicious cycle. Outside of the end of this season, and I include the playoffs in that when I say the season, what else stuck out to you about this press conference that they held yesterday? Again, 25 minutes breaking down the end of the season.
I think the other comment that I really took stock in was Howie Roseman talking about the contract structures of the offense and the defense, right? Because he drafted a lot of offensive players from 2021 through until like 2022, 2023, after the Cam Jurgens pick in the second round. Then they started really building the defense, right? The offense, those guys all hit. They paid all those guys top 5, top 10 contracts. The defense, as a result, had to be younger and cheaper with rookie deals. Howie yesterday was talking about now the defense, those guys are getting ready to get paid. We got to extend Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter, eventually 2 all-pro corners and Quenya Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. Even this year, it's like, do you pay Jalen Phillips? We got Nolan Smith eventually with this 5th-year option coming up. Jalix Hunt is already 2 years in. Moro Ajoma's a free agent after next year, and he was incredible. So I think that's the other thing I took stock into is he knows they're going to have to – I'm not saying they're going to go all in on getting rid of this offense and going cheap and young like they did the defense, but you're going to see things balance out, right? Because defensive guys got to get paid. And so I think like that told me Dallas Goedert probably not back. Lane Johnson, is he back? The A.J. Brown trade is very much on the table. So that was my big takeaway is there is going to be changes on offense in 2026 more than just who's calling plays.
Yeah, and on that point, he made that comment, and you're right, you got that. Howie made the comment during the press conference. Then at the end of the press conference, and this is where I think it even has more credence because
I saw somebody this question, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. And that's where I think people will read if you just read the quote, okay, that doesn't matter because it just sounds like something everybody says. It sounds like, executive speak, okay, or coaches speak, what a players. But the fact that the press conference was over, Louie, it was over. Nick Sirianni had the final word. Bob Lang, the PR arm of the Eagles, was like, all right, guys, thanks. And then Howie's like, if I could just say one more thing.
Yeah.
Hold on, before. And the fact that he had to, or at least felt the need to clarify or reiterate, you can still build for the future while trying to win now, everybody. The fact that he had to, like, get the, landing the airplane orange sticks, the torches out, basically.
Like a warning
hey, guys,
shot, kind of, yeah.
Hey, just so you know, we're going to lose some talent in the offseason, but that doesn't mean that we don't want to win now. So if Nakobe Dean's not re-signed, if Jordan Davis isn't re-signed, if Dallas, Jalen Phillips isn't re-signed, if
Blankenship's a free agent.
Yeah. I think there's some people that would do a backflip if he wasn't re-signed.
I'm kind of in that field, yeah.
Right. If these guys aren't re-signed, don't think we're trying to lose. Don't think that we're not, we're not all of a sudden just packing it in and we've had our run and now we're a rebuild type team. That's not it. So the fact that he had to call attention back to it, I think, is him thinking down the line when you talk about free agency or when that hits, letting players walk and not being able to re-sign them. Hey, don't come to me with the idea of we're trying to lose now or Howie doesn't think these guys are talented or they're not worth it. No, it's a matter of we have a lot of guys we want to re-sign. Like even going into this year, people were talking about, wow, could this be a little bit of a down year because you're not paying top dollar and you got to pay top dollar for, like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, we're not paying him. Mekhi Becton, we're not paying him because we got to make sure that we could pay Jalen Carter, and down the line we could pay Quenyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean.
Yeah, they let Josh Sweat go, Milton Williams, a lot of guys. Yeah,
exactly. So this year, I think is a good walk up to what next year. Excuse me, I should say this regular season is going to be a good walk up to what this offseason could be in terms of just preparing people for the idea that hey, some of the guys that have really made a name for themselves here and have performed well might not be back next year.
Well, I think it's a good thing,
yourself.
Though. I mean, I think it's the reality
it's the nature
of
the
NFL.
Business.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
The Eagles can backload all these contracts they want, but eventually it comes due. And you can't – even the Eagles who spend more cash-wise, more than anybody in football, even the Eagles cannot keep everybody. Like, this is not – there is some – it's a soft cap, but it still is a salary cap. It's not like the NBA back in the day where you could pay a luxury tax and go $1 billion over as long as your cash-rich owner is willing to pay that tax. So – they do have to make sacrifices, and I think it's a good thing that Howie has learned from the past because look at after Super Bowl 52, after 2017, he doubled down on keeping everybody in that window, and it didn't work. They got into cap trouble. A lot of those guys did not age well. He now knows you have to balance things for the future and for the short term. You kind of have to have your cake and try to eat it too down the line. But they have a lot of core pieces they want to pay, and that is why they have to make these tough decisions because they have so many good players that you got to make tough decisions on. So when he said that, I don't know if he was talking about a move specifically in mind. If it was, I would think it's an A.J. Brown trade that could be coming. But even if he just meant it in general, I think it's something that, reflecting back, it's not a bad situation to be in, right?
Yeah. One more word I want to get in from yesterday as far as a takeaway, and that takeaway was the word evolve. When it came down to it, when it came down to it, why was Kevin Patullo relieved of his duties? Because we don't know if he's going to be on the team again next year or on the coaching staff next year. Why was he relieved of his play calling responsibilities and offensive coordinator title? Because Nick Sirianni wants the offense to evolve. Before we name an offensive coordinator, and we'll go into that in the next segment, Louie, what does that mean to you? Evolve. I want this offense to evolve. What does that mean?
It's got to change. It's been the same offense. Even Kellen Moore in 2024 didn't have full autonomy of running his style of offense, right? Mm-hmm. It was, Nick Sirianni in his press conference that year talked about meshing concepts between his offense and Kellen's. It's finally time for them to abandon a lot of the concepts that they've used since 2021. And that doesn't mean completely abandon who you are identity-wise as a run-first team. I do think they need to get back to getting Jalen Hurts to run more in 2026. But it's time to run other concepts, a more modern style passing attack that utilizes the middle of the field, uses pre-snap motion, and there's actually a purpose of it. It's not doing it just to do it. Using different formations, not just shotgun run, like more under center, more empty set, just being more diverse and being more matchup dependent. It just feels like the Eagles are such a stagnant, slow, conservative, predictable offense. And I think that's what they've realized probably for a couple years. I think they knew it last year, but again, they won the Super Bowl, and I think the priority was more rewarding that win and promoting his guy in Kevin Patullo. But now that's probably coming from the top of the organization, but they know the offense needs to grow, Jalen needs to grow, or this thing probably does have a shelf life, and we kind of saw that this year.
Yeah, 0 for 2 in promotions from within.
Well, you could even go farther back than that, man. Like, they're 0 for 3 because Doug promoted Mike Groh after 2017 too, and that
I was
right. I mean, you go back to Press Taylor didn't work, and so this has never worked, this strategy. So Howie finally was like, that's it. After I wonder if they made it to the Super Bowl this year, there's no chance they do this again. They third time's the charm. I'd hope they've learned this lesson.
I'd hate to be Scott Loeffler because you're not getting promoted anytime
Poor guy,
soon.
yeah. But you use the word evolve. Like, you're not probably going to evolve with internal promotions because these guys are inside the building. They don't come from a lot of different backgrounds, or at least not recently. So if you're going to evolve, that's just not the approach to take.
Right, and maybe he'll get passing game coordinator once Christian Parker gets hired by the Cowboys or something.
That's fine. Give him a little title like that, but he shouldn't be running the offense.
A little adorable assistant to the head coach type of thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Head coaching assistant.
Unfortunately, the Deuce Staley title that they used to give him. So
right. Hey, Andy Reid got the Eagles job off having that title with the Packers.
That's fair. That's a fair point.
Assistant head coach.
True.
Yeah. Tulo was associate head coach.
Yeah.
Assistant is the higher.
By the way,
I think.
I don't want him in the bill. I know players like him more than we do. I don't want him anywhere near this offense anymore. I would not keep him at all. And I don't know why he would want to stay unless there's just no job. I mean, I'm sure his reputation's not great around the league right now, but I just don't. I want him gone. I want him out of the building.
I'm going to tell you one reason he'd stay. All right?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you one reason he'd stay, but I'll do that because it has to do with our next segment.
All right.
When we come back, we'll get to that was the potatoes of the stew. This right here is going to be the meat coming up here when we talk about the next offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles. All that and more in this edition of Locked On Eagles Squad show on the Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe. We will be back right after my computer stops doing whatever the heck it's doing, which is not a good thing at all. There we go. All right. Back after this. It's like a total reset there for a second. Hey, let me tell you about the Gametime app. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That's promo code LOCKEDONNFL when you talk about the Gametime app. NFL postseason in full swing. Nothing like being at a game with the crowd noise and the vibe. It's fantastic. That's where the Gametime app comes in. And not just for NFL playoff games, for NBA games, baseball games when the season comes around. A couple of weeks, still pitchers and catchers report in Philly to Clearwater, that is. So download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. Gametime app is what I pull up to check out for all games, all concerts, all comedy shows. The zone deals are what really will stand out to you. You pick the section and Gametime picks the seats. It is just that incredible. Seeing NFL tickets, by the way, can be available for around $100. Oh, come on now. It's an easy decision when you talk about the Gametime app. And how about the Gametime guarantee that gives you a real peace of mind, real authentic tickets? So take the guesswork out of buying NFL tickets on the Gametime app, as well as a concert, comedy show, baseball, basketball games as well. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply on the Gametime app. Again, create an account, use the redemption code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Download the Gametime app today and get back to being in the Gametime atmosphere with the Gametime app. Just to make sure I deliver on that tease, Louie.
Yeah.
There's only, and this is what makes me suspicious about this guy coming back to Philadelphia. Why would you leave it open-ended that Kevin Patullo could stay on the staff? Now, the one obvious glaring thing is, well, because Nick Sirianni wants to make sure his boy's taken care of. Because he realizes, and it's true, it wasn't all Kevin Patullo's fault. The offensive line was ass. Obviously, you had some terrible drops from your wide receivers. Your quarterback could have played better this year. It's certainly not all Kevin Patullo. There's only one guy that I think Kevin Patullo would stay on the staff and work under again. You want to give me your best guess?
That's a coach right now?
He's not a coach right now. He's been a coach. He actually was an offensive coordinator of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Oh, Frank Reich?
He also wanted to, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's the one guy. So I think, I don't think you got to be a detective to figure this one out. Let me leave it open-ended for my guy, Kevin Petullo, because he's my guy. And if he doesn't find a job anywhere else, he could always come back here and be the passing game coordinator, associate head coach, offensive specialist.
He could be the red zone coordinator. That's about as good as he did. So
there you go. Red zone. There you go. It's red zone
specialist. That's what I'm going to name him. Yeah.
There you go. So red zone specialist.
Red zone consultant is actually what I want.
There you go. So if not that, then maybe he would be under Frank Reich if Frank Reich was to take over the offensive coordinator position. Now, let me just say, I'm only saying this first because we talked about it in the last segment. I in no way, shape, or form, this is not the bring Frank Reich back to Philadelphia bandwagon I'm starting up here. I'm not revving up the engine to that. I'm just entertaining a possibility that is out there right now, given the ties to Nick Sirianni, given the ties to Frank Reich and Kevin Petullo and Nick Sirianni, and the fact that the job is open. It's the one aspect that I could see Kevin Petullo staying on the staff in some capacity if Frank Reich takes over. Now, that's not my first choice. I don't think that's the Eagles' first choice.
I hope
Louie DiBiase, I'll ask you first. Who's your number one guy? Jeffrey Lurie's calling you. He's logging on to Locked On Eagles, and he's saying, Louie, who should I hire? Who's the guy?
For me, it's Mike McDaniel. I think Frank Reich is not taking it far enough when it comes to evolving this offense. Mike McDaniel, to me, is the perfect guy because he's going to, for me, the priority shouldn't be about who could potentially replace Nick Sirianni down the road to be the head coach, who could stay beyond 2026. If those are your priorities when it comes to choosing the next coordinator, then just pick a new head coach. That's, in my opinion, should be about getting the best guy for this year, and it should be all about pushing Jalen Hurts, evolving his game, because this guy isn't going to be mobile forever. Or even if he is, it's not going to be at the degree it's been, and I feel like it's already kind of regressed. So it's all about, to me, how do I get him better utilizing the middle of the field? How do I get him more accurate consistently? A high-volume passing offense where he can throw 30-plus times a game, and you can win that way, right? I just think throwing with anticipation into these tight zone windows, he needs to grow in that way if he's going to age well. The Eagles, the elephant in the room is that they kind of got to extend Jalen again to get these cap hits down. He has a $31 million cap hit this year, goes up to 40 the year after, and it keeps skyrocketing. So I think they'll want to get that number down with an extension. If you're going to feel comfortable doing that, I think you got to know that he can take another step as a pocket passer. And Mike McDaniel, when you look at what he did in Miami, the way he utilized the middle of the field, the way they were able to scheme things open, run after the catch opportunities, the screen game for Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Devin Achane. I thought he got way more out of Tua than a lot of coaches would. And I think he would be perfect. I want somebody from that Shanahan, McVay kind of tree because, again, they present concepts the Eagles offense just never thinks of it at this point. So he would be, I don't know if he's the most realistic option, if he would be interested in the Eagles, but they should absolutely be interested in him.
I absolutely agree. And I love the idea that came out, maybe it was from Ian Rappaport, I might have that wrong, that Mike McDaniel would be more interested in a great offensive coordinator position as opposed to meh. Let's just say coach the Raiders or the Browns. It would be more entertaining. More maybe a better idea to coach with the Eagles and be on this staff and potentially win a Super Bowl, and maybe even more profitable for him next year, a year from now, in that aspect. The other thing, and you listed some great things there, especially when you talk about the screen game, getting a lot out of Tua, spreading the football around as well. Yeah. You kind of had to in Miami. The other thing is play action. They were one of the highest percentage play action teams in the entire NFL last season. The Dolphins were. And spoiler, I guarantee you the top 7 teams did not have Saquon Barkley in their backfield.
Right.
So if you look at the Philadelphia Eagles, who were 19th in the NFL in play action percentage last year versus the Dolphins that were 7th in play action percentage last year, that to me opens up a huge throwing. Those open up huge throwing lanes for Jalen Hurts, for A.J. Brown if he's back next year, which I think he will be, spoiler. Devontae Smith. And you're going to need it as well, whoever your tight end's going to be, because Dallas Goedert's going to be pretty expensive.
Yeah,
this
I
offseason.
I don't think he's coming back. And you're right. I mean, play action is something that I thought Jalen Hurts was actually very comfortable doing this year. I thought he was way more efficient under center play action. I think he's improved over the years throwing on the run, and that's something McDaniel can, I think, explore and emphasize. And the other thing is, too, the Miami Dolphins over the years have been consistently atop the league in pre-snap motion. And like I said, what they used to do with pre-snap motion versus what the Eagles do, it's different. Like their pre-snap motion is involved in the actual play, where the Eagles, it only feels like they're ever doing it to see, all right, are they in zone or are they in man? And that's it. Like they don't do motion with a purpose. So I think it's all about
out of it.
Yes, exactly. And then they do the same thing off of it. It's nothing different. So I think instead of just like leaning into the strengths of Jalen, even though that should be part of it, like I don't think he'll ever grow enough, Mark, as a passer. Whereas if he never runs, he can still be an elite quarterback. Like he has to run the football. But I think it's more about evolving, because this guy, I mean, look at the Russell Wilsons of the world, the Cam Newtons, even going back to like Michael Vick. A lot of these mobile quarterbacks that didn't age well, that were done by even like before 35, it was because when their mobility slowed down, when the injuries piled up, they weren't the pocket passers that other guys are. And so they just had a quicker shelf life. And I'm not comfortable giving Jalen Hurts another 4-year extension if I don't trust that he can take more steps.
Mm-hmm. Dolphins got the opening. Falcons got the opening. Ravens got the opening. Steelers, Titans, Raiders, Cardinals, and Browns.
That's a lot of openings. You don't think he gets a job? He might get a head coaching job again.
That's so you said earlier. What was the word you used? Not fantasy. What was the word you used? If he doesn't take another, in terms of Mike McDaniel getting another job, he's probably going to get other job offers when it comes to being a head coach.
Oh yeah. And by the
way, Kevin
Sorry.
Stefanski, same thing. Brian Dable, potentially the same thing. Not as much, I don't think, but still the same thing.
Yeah.
It's possible. It's very, very possible.
Even the Lions need a new play caller, and they interviewed Mike McDaniel. And if I'm McDaniel and I'm thinking about my scheme and what it does best, I don't know. He might prefer an offense like the Lions that have a quicker passer, a quicker processor in Jared Goff, run after the catch weapons galore. I mean, they've got Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, Jahmyr Gibbs. So that's the thing, is the Eagles, I think McDaniel will be at the top of their list, and it sounds like reports are they are interested in him, and were even interested in him years ago, going back to the previous regime. I don't know if the Eagles are atop his list, but that report you said about him maybe taking a good OC job over a bad head coaching job, that is promising for sure, because he's number one on my list by far. It's a tier of his own, and then there's other options.
Yeah, so let's move to number two. Number two for me, I don't know who you have. I have Brian Dable as number two, and this is a mix of availability in terms of not getting a head coaching job, as well as a great fit here in Philadelphia. Now, look, let's start at the beginning. Yes, he was the OC at Bama when they said, "Hey, Jalen, have a seat over here." So they've talked about in the past burying that hatchet already. That's a thing of yesteryear. But a guy that knows how to handle a mobile quarterback with the quarterbacks that he's had throughout his career, going back to being an offensive coordinator, of course, in Buffalo. I think you could get a lot more out of Jalen Hurts, and I think you could also get a lot more out of this offense. He and Saquon Barkley already have that relationship, whether it's from committing more to Saquon Barkley and just in terms of the run game, not obviously with a contract negotiation, as we all know how that ended, but just in terms of using Saquon, making sure you're not wasting that talent there in New York. And then even things off the field where Saquon loved the fact that Brian Dable would come into the locker room rapping to Biggie Smalls. Okay. Just little things like that where, those guys have that good relationship. Dable is a very interesting one to me because I also think he would have a little bit of staying power here. Now, granted, the Eagles win another Super Bowl. They have a top tier offense. Yeah, he's going to get those interviews.
Yeah.
But he's more so a guy that I think is way more expected to be an offensive coordinator next year as opposed to being a head coach.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Dable isn't my number two, but I like that idea. Also, Nick Sirianni and Dable, people said that wouldn't work. Sirianni said that Dable's one of the first guys that taught him about NFL football, and that was kind of a mentor to him. And you look at the quarterbacks that Dable has coached throughout his career, even back to Bama, he coached Jalen Hurts, but Josh Allen with the Buffalo Bills, and even this past year, Jackson Dart. Even, again, Daniel Jones in 2022, he got a playoff win out of that guy.
Yeah,
Those are very similar style mobile quarterbacks to Jalen, where they're not like Lamar Jacksons that have that just electric side-to-side speed. They're more north-south running quarterbacks, those styles, especially Josh Allen and Jackson Dart, who says he emulates his game after Jalen Hurts. I think he would fit well with getting Jalen back on track in that department. And Dable, I think, has a harder coaching style. I think Jalen does need to be pushed a little bit. And we just saw there was a report not that long ago this morning that came out that maybe the Eagles have been a little bit hesitant to critique Hurts and push him. But I think Jalen is not like Carson Wentz and is open-minded of growing his game. So, yeah, Dable's somebody for me that's interesting. I know in the squad show the other day, we didn't hype it up that much, but the guy that's gone was somebody that I liked. Todd Monken following Harbaugh.
Yeah.
He has that kind of staying power that you alluded to with Dable, and I thought he got a lot of the things out of Lamar Jackson the last few years that I want out of Hurts. Now that he's gone, I don't know, Kingsbury's air raid offense, I think Jalen Hurts with Lincoln Riley at Oklahoma, that's when he started to develop as a passer in that kind of spread it out offense. Quick passing is emphasized in that kind of scheme. And I just think that this year, when you saw the Eagles offense work, it was with like empty set, 11 personnel. They ran the football better in 11. And Kingsbury got a lot out of Jaden Daniels last year that I would want from Jalen this year. So Kingsbury kind of has a stink on his name, I feel like, right now because of his Cardinals head coaching days, but he might be number 2 for me.
So here's the thing with Kingsbury.
Yeah.
He was like the first to quit. I found that to be really interesting.
That is
he was
interesting.
You didn't have
why he was gone. Like after 1 year, maybe the best rookie quarterback season ever. Why is he not still there?
So, but if he's quitting, and I know it would kind of add up to the point where another team would already announce that they had him if he thought he had another deal lined up. But I just find it really interesting that he was like, "Yeah, I'm good, I'm out," before anybody else. Like not including
guys. Is that a referendum on him or Dan Quinn? I don't know. Maybe you're right. It's on Kingsbury. I'm not sure.
But I think it would come out that he was fired. You know what I mean? Like you're saying, he just threw his hands up and be like, "I can't work with this Quinn guy anymore, dude. I'm out." Like,
no, I can't imagine because with Jaden Daniels and the success you had, unless he knew he was getting a head coaching job somewhere.
That's exactly what I'm saying. But I think that would also come out already if that was the case.
I think he interviewed with Baltimore, but I don't think he's been just going on this coaching interview tour across the country. So
I'm puzzled that the Kingsbury situation was so different in that he very early on was just like, "Yeah, I'm out of here. Yeah. See you later." That's that. So
again, though, man,
I don't think you do that.
There's not a lot of
I don't think you do that unless you have something else or at least a great shot at getting another gig.
Yeah,
that's what I find so interesting about it.
I agree. When you look across the league right now, I mean, outside of McDaniels, Dable, Kingsbury, outside of that, you might have to go with a younger, a Nate Shieldhouse with the Rams, their coordinator, quarterback coach. Like that's an option. They were I guess the Eagles are interested in Ole Miss play caller, offensive coordinator Charlie Weiss Jr.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They might have to get creative because again, the head coaching pool is so bad. Shieldhouse actually got interviewed for the Browns head coaching job. So some of these guys might get bumped up like a year earlier. They might get a head coaching job when they might have been more hot commodities in 2027. And therefore the Eagles might have to take like the second group of that. So it'll be intriguing, but I think McDaniels is one to me and then like a Dable or a Kingsbury.
Okay. So you and I think have those reversed. We have those.
Yeah.
We have those
Kingsbury's number 2 for me. I'd say Dable 3.
Okay. So I have 3 and then 2. So the other, I don't want anybody who is coming out of college, like unless you're a proven commodity. Like, I'm sorry, I thought we were trying to evolve here. Yeah. Unless you have coached in the NFL, and plus, imagine Charlie Weiss Jr. being in here with Jalen Hurts to be like, "Yeah, that last guy didn't do so good, but I got the answers." Like, okay, dude, all right, let's.
And then if like Jalen and Nick say no, we're doing it my way, I don't think a young offensive coach from college that hasn't even been a head coach is going to give you much pushback. They need a Vic Fangio style. They're not going to get an 80-year-old offensive great mind, right? I think.
Did we mention Tom Moore?
Yeah, yeah,
was that Tuesday? Tom Moore, 87 years old. He comes in.
That doesn't exist with offensive coaching nowadays. Monken was like the closest thing you could maybe find, and again, he's following Harbaugh in New York. So, but I do want somebody like a Dable or a McDaniels that will push. Again, it's all about pushing them out of what they've done. Even though the resume's been pretty good, this offense clearly this past year showed the league is caught up to this. Even if the run game gets back on track this year, the passing game, even in the year you won the Super Bowl 2 years ago, was bottom 4. It has to get better. It's inexcusable when you have the highest payroll on offense in football. So it's, to me, all about evolving.
All right. The next best offer, then, for staying power for a coach that has some silver in his hair to bring it full circle.
Yeah. Are you going to say it?
Is Frank Reich.
Yeah.
That's that now again, that is not I'm not saying he's fourth on my list. I'm just saying if you're looking for that combination of staying power and know-how, he's it. But to go back to the word that kicked it all off, evolve, I don't see how Frank Reich evolves things. The one argument you could make is if you want someone to be an authoritative figure, Frank Reich can certainly be that guy. If you want someone
Carson Wentz a lot in 2017. So
he absolutely did. And then I give him all the credit in the world for just taking Nick Foles aside when he took over and said, all right, we went through the film. We think you're really good at this. You tell us what you're really good at. Let's get on the same page. And they won a Super Bowl where they outdueled Tom Brady, who lit it up in that game. So that's a nice feather to have in your cap, right?
Yeah.
Now here's one name that's tied in because of Stanford and Frank Reich. And the Mormon missile people would go bonkers over this name, David Shaw.
I thought you were going to say that, and I didn't want you to say that name. I'm so out on that.
It's just, dude, I don't even want to touch it. Okay. I don't even want to touch it, but I know there's people that want to touch this, and I'm not touching it.
I saw his name thrown out by some insider the other day. I'm like, yeah, please no. I've heard this guy's name might join the NFL for like 15 years, and I'm like, no, thank you.
Right. Well, was he with the Lions as like a passing game coordinator this year?
Yeah. But for years when he was at Stanford, even they're like, when's this guy going to be in the NFL? I'm like, I think there's a reason he hasn't been there yet. I don't know.
No, it's puzzling.
The Frank Reich thing real quick, though, I will, to why I'm not a big fan of it, but why I'm not totally against it. I do think my brain instantly when I thought of that name said, oh, it's going to be the same offense we already have with Sirianni. But I do think when you look back at what the Colts were doing with Andrew Luck, with Phillip Rivers, it wasn't identical to what Sirianni brought over to the Eagles. I think Nick had to change a lot of things when he realized, hey, my project here isn't fixing Carson Wentz. It's actually to develop this young mobile quarterback that needs to grow a lot as a passer. I don't think Sirianni's offense is exactly what you saw with Reich in Indianapolis or what him and Doug were doing in Philly. So I don't think it's evolving. Again, it's not far enough for me. I need them to go very different on offense. But I wouldn't be like completely flipping out. This wouldn't be if they just brought back Patullo or Scott Loeffler. I don't think it would be that kind of outrage, at least from my perspective.
I agree. The last name I'll mention is Nate Skillhouse.
I like him. Yeah.
The passing game coordinator for the Rams.
Yep.
I mean, let's just call it what it is. You've met Sean McVay. Sit down for this interview.
You breathed on the Sean McVay coaching tree, that offense. We'll bring you in.
But he once spotted Sean McVay.
It's pretty good though, so
pretty damn good. I'd be very, very interested. It's not the one I'm banging the drum for, but I do think that's a very interesting name to consider from the Rams there. All right, when we come back, we're going to get into the worst part of 2025, and it does have a big old fat tie-in to what the Eagles could be doing differently in the future. We'll talk about that and more when we return. This is Locked On Eagles Squad Show on the Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. Back after this.
All right, guys, today's Locked On Eagles Squad Show is presented by Ultimate QB. The draft pick positions in the NFL for a lot of teams are set. So many teams are looking for their franchise quarterback. Ever wish to become a pro QB getting drafted first overall by your team, the Philadelphia Eagles? Well, now you can. There's a mobile game just for you called Ultimate QB Football Legend. In this game, you step into the cleats of a number one draft pick quarterback, and it's your job to lead your team to greatness, to help turn a failing franchise into a dynasty. This is the number one quarterback career mode game on the mobile app stores, and it introduces the most realistic environment with full career control. Sign contracts, train, upgrade yourself, build chemistry with teammates, give input to your GM on roster moves, which Jalen Hurts might need to be doing this offseason, play the actual games in 2D, and rise through the ranks to become a pro football legend. You'll deal with the ups and downs of a quarterback career, from rookie nerves to playoff drama, and every choice shapes your journey. Ultimate QB is totally free to play, has no ads, and works 100% offline. Perfect for when you want to sneak in a quick game or two on the go. Just head over to ultimate-qb.com. That's ultimate-qb.com, or search for Ultimate QB in your app store. And we've got something special just for you guys. Use the promo code LOCKEDON in all capital letters in the game store to get a free boost at the start of your career. Ultimate QB Football Legend, QB1. It's your legacy. And guys, today's show, we're also sponsored by Home Chef. As the new year gets going, a lot of people are trying to simplify their routines, and dinner is a big one. Between busy work days, cold winter nights, and packed schedules, having an easy, reliable dinner plan makes a huge difference. That's where Home Chef comes in. They take the stress out of cooking by delivering fresh, pre-portioned ingredients right to your door with easy-to-follow recipes that actually taste great. They're rated #1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease, and it's easy to see why. Meals come ready to fit your schedule, 30-minute recipes, oven-ready trays or quick lunches, which is huge for me. I got pretty much 2 full-time jobs, on the go all the time. They have over 30 weekly options, including family-sized meals and different dietary choices. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering listeners 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. How about that? Just go to homechef.com/lockedon for 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert.
I want to be an active subscriber to get a free dessert. But
Sweet
you know what?
Treats for life, man.
I don't shy away from them.
Cannolis for life, Mark.
Have you seen the cannoli things they have at parties now, like for weddings, like receptions and whatever, where it's just a guy walking around with a big old thing of the cannoli mix and the shells and whatever?
Just like it's a dip now. It's changing the game.
The regat, as some people like to say.
They're just taking it apart, essentially. It's just a cannoli unrolled.
Looks pretty bad. It looks pretty badass. I just want somebody following me around with that cannoli.
Yeah.
I'll have another one. And maybe somebody else.
Just keep looking for me.
Yeah. I want somebody else with an espresso machine. Just another one? Boom.
That's perfect. Good to go. I agree, man.
That's what you call push button. Like I like the Eagles have a push button offense. Thank you. Anyway, here's what I didn't like about this year. And I got to credit Paul Hembekides with this from ESPN. Mm-hmm. Remember that time the Eagles won the Super Bowl a year ago? That was fun. In that season, they ran the football out of RPO, or they ran, 274 RPOs. They ran out of the RPO 274 times. 274 times. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm reading a different stat here. Let me start. Forget everything I just said other than the cannoli bit. They ran RPOs in general, not ran out of them. They ran RPOs 274 times. 274 times for almost 2,000 yards they got out of RPOs. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
That was when they won the Super Bowl. This past year, they went from 274 RPOs to 112. And they went from 2,000 yards to 600 yards. They went from 2,000 to 600.
It's ridiculous.
How is that a good idea? How is that a good idea when you have that as a threat? Not to bring back the Frank Reich thing, but with Nick Foles, you ran RPOs and won a Super Bowl. There's hardly an O to the PO. You know what I mean? When you have Nick
one of the
Foles,
slowest quarterbacks I've ever seen. Yeah.
Not to mention out of RPOs, he also threw 7 touchdown passes in one game. Not with Frank Reich. That was with Chip Kelly. But still, imagine what you could do with Jalen Hurts, who's like not just an RPO, but an RRPO, where you can either run it with Saquon, run it yourself, or you can pass it. So, Louie, this to me, it summarizes. It's not the only thing, but it summarizes the worst part of the Eagles' offense last year, the lack of the RPO that just seemed to evade Kevin Patullo throughout this season.
That's the thing, is it's not only that this Eagles offense was infuriating, so mind-numbingly conservative and not creative, but they, like you said, they didn't even do the things that they used to do best with not only Jalen Hurts, but like you said, back in the Nick Foles and Carson Wentz days. Like, it does work, and even this year, it felt like when they did RPOs, they only had one pass play out of it, like one concept. It was the RPO to Dallas Goedert rolling right. There were no different wrinkles to it, and Patullo just he didn't understand. I don't know if some of this is on Jalen Hurts, where there were reports he said he didn't want to run as much this year, and if he's not a part of the designed run game, maybe you don't use that play as much. But like you said, Nick Foles did this, and that's one of the slowest quarterbacks I've ever seen. So that's Tanner McKee level mobility. So yeah, it wasn't only that he wasn't creative, he just didn't even the things that would work this year, like RPOs, under center play action, he just went away from them. And it was always in the, I think, second half offense was the worst part of this year, because all of that stuff went out the window. And yeah, Jalen has his hands in that. He needs to be more willing to run next year, but it just, that RPO stat's very damning of what happened this year.
But wait, there's more.
Perfect.
You mentioned design runs with the Jalen Hurts. How many times Jalen Hurts ran the football? Designed runs. Not how many rushes in general where like he scrambled and it counted as a run. In 2024, that year the Eagles won the Super Bowl.
Correct.
They ran the ball with Jalen Hurts 96 times. Called run plays. Not including tush pushes either. Okay? 96 times last year. This season, 41. 96 last year. 41
less. More than double.
What are we doing? What are we doing here? What are we watching? All right. Look, I understand. Look, I even made this argument on one of our squad shows, and I made it on other platforms as well with Jalen Hurts. People talk, you can't have Jalen run so much. You got to have Jalen run less. Jalen can't run as much. I agree. That is still the right attitude to have. But half the time?
I was going to say, man, there's a middle ground between where he was running the football and then where they were this year. Like, that's two opposite ends of the spectrum. There's got to be a middle ground where 45 less of those plays is inexcusable. Because, again, yes, you want to keep Jalen Hurts healthy throughout the year, and every year outside of this season, he's had an injury from a run play that he's dealing with heading into the postseason. But again, if Jalen does not use his legs and he is not a threat to run, it doesn't matter how much he grows over the next few years. I think you need a new quarterback. And I really do hope it was just more a Patullo thing than anything else, because that has to be a part of this offense, or else I'm not giving him an extension and I'm looking for another guy at some point, and I'm completely changing everything about this offense. So yeah, I think that's one of the more I don't want to say underrated, but like, I don't think it was talked about enough just how, can you even say ineffective or uninvolved he was in the run game. It's a huge part of why they regressed.
I'm sorry. I think it's negligent. I'm sure
malpractice, 100%.
I think you've gotten these questions too. I've certainly got them.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, they come from haters, people that are like, well, Jalen's not that good. He's just mobile. I'm like, well, are you saying that like it's a negative?
Production,
like, what are you telling me?
It doesn't matter if it's a passing yard or a rushing yard, a passing touchdown or a rushing touchdown.
Yeah. How many Super Bowls
won you a Super Bowl last year?
Yeah. How many Super Bowls does Matthew Stafford have?
Yeah.
One.
Well, Mark, I saw a stat yesterday. Jalen's playoff run last year, he had the fourth most rushing yards in a single postseason in the history of football. Like, that's a huge reason. Look at that Chiefs game. He had over 70 rushing yards. He gashed Spagnuolo's defense. They had no answer for his legs. Like, that works. That's a huge part of why every NFL team requires mobility now in their franchise quarterback. It's why a Tanner McKee nowadays is seen as a career backup. So I don't know why it's in a negative connotation. You're right. It's probably just people that don't like Jalen.
Yeah, well, exactly. And my argument for it is, so hold on a second. You want me to take away something that makes him special? Like one of the things that makes him okay, so let's talk about Patrick Mahomes, for instance. Patrick Mahomes, all right, fine. He's not allowed to throw sidearm anymore. He can only throw perfectly over the head. He can't, have the crazy arm angles. That's how he has to do it. Take that away from him. No, why would you take away any strong attribute from any quarterback? They are who they are. And if they could do this one thing in particular very well, maybe have him do it. Like, the multiple times, especially in the second half of the season, we saw the Eagles line up with an empty backfield on like a 3rd and 2 for crying out loud. And they're trying a bubble screen, or they're trying a tight end screen, or they're just doing something dumb, as opposed to, I don't know, run your quarterback up the middle when you have that defense spread out all nice.
That's why Dable's interesting to me. Like, I do think Dable's an interesting option to get that back on track. I don't want Jalen running like Jackson Dart, where he's diving headfirst into 3 defenders to get 1 extra yard when it's not picking up the first down in the beginning of the first quarter of a game, right? I think you got to, again, pick and choose your spots. But, yeah, I mean, and Jalen needs to be more aggressive, though, too. I think there were too many runs this year where he just gave up and kind of avoided contact. It's like, hey, man, if you cut up field there, diving, forward head first, you might take on a little bit of contact, but that would have been a first down. And I don't know. I think he needs to change his mentality this year, and the coaching staff needs to too. You got to, again, they were so risk averse. This is just another great example of how conservative they were, not just second and long run plays up the middle, just the lack of passing attempts in second half of games, but the negligence you're talking about with Jalen's rushing style. it was just more proof that they played scared this year. They played not to lose. And that was why this year was one of the most infuriating seasons ever covering or watching this team, even as a fan.
I'm with you. And I also think in the past, we don't hear from Jalen Hurts saying things like they took the straitjacket off today or whatever it takes to win. All it matters is winning. I don't think we're hearing things like that from Jalen Hurts over the years if he's the guy holding himself back.
And
I don't think that's
that's a game where it's your life's on the line, and he only had 16 rushing yards. Even in the postseason, I'm like, all right, they were just trying to get him through the regular season. Now they'll really like take the straitjacket off. They didn't. Like they had one nice design run in the second half that worked, and it got called back by a penalty, and there was none of it the rest of the game.
Yeah, ridiculous. All right, when we come back, we're going to give you our playoff picks for the weekend of teams that are actually playing playoff football still. That must be fun. Anyway, all right, back when we return, this is Locked On Eagles Squad show on the Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Hey, let me tell you about FanDuel. You can get in on the wild card action, divisional round action in the NFL playoffs. When you talk about FanDuel, officially playoff mode, game day during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action because right now, every NFL playoff game day, FanDuel uses a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. So log on to the FanDuel app and get started. Each game day, you'll pack loaded with multiple profit boosts so you can apply the bets you like the most. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see what boosts you want to apply. The boosts let you lean into your game day instincts, whether you're backing momentum, whether you're backing a defense, maybe a quarterback, maybe coaching as well, as we learned all too much in Philadelphia a week ago. You make your picks, then you apply the profit boosts to go after even bigger payouts while your playoffs get rolling. Visit NFL FanDuel. That's FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game on game day. So once again, visit FanDuel, FanDuel.com. Download the FanDuel app, official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day on FanDuel. Who are you liking this weekend? Who are you liking there, Louie DiBiase, Locked On Eagles? What are you liking?
I'm liking the Josh Allen legacy run to continue. I think he goes into Denver, wins that game against another great defense, gets to the AFC title. I don't feel confident about any game in this playoff run. That's just been the reality of the NFL this year. But, sometimes I do like to pick with my heart, and it just feels like if there was a script, this is all about the Josh Allen run. And what he did in Jacksonville last week was unbelievable. That, if I had to pick one, that's my deadlock money line pick, it's probably the Bills in Denver. The Denver Broncos are very similar to the Eagles, where Bo Nix doesn't do anything for 3.5 quarters, and then he kind of pulls a rabbit out of a hat. I don't think he can do that against Allen. He's the best player in the world right now by, I think, a pretty substantial margin.
Yeah, the Denver offense is one quarter. The Eagles offense is one half. That's pretty much how that works. But nothing late.
But that's how the Bears are too, man. So, that Rams game, can Chicago hang in there for 3 quarters against that team? It's different than Green Bay. So, I don't know.
Yeah, that the Bears game is I'm very curious about. The Bears are never out of it. And is Jared Verse going to be able to get outside contain on Caleb Williams? That whole thing. So I'll say this: I like your Bills pick over the Broncos. Bills advance. Patriots Texans. I like the Patriots winning that one.
Agreed.
Seahawks 49ers. Big question. Maybe the question of the weekend. Sam Darnold said he's good. Had a little oblique tweak in practice. Drew Lock could get reps if he's knocked out of that game. The 49ers are going to be gunning for him. They're a very well-coached football team. They're the team that only put up, 3 points against them 3 weeks ago? Tough call, but I still see the Seahawks. If Sam Darnold wins that or is able to play in that game, which he's going to play, but if he's able to finish that game, I got the Seahawks winning that one. How about you?
Yeah, I have Seattle. Buffalo is actually my before the playoffs when I was doing my predictions. Bills Seahawks was my Super Bowl. So I think that defense, Seattle's defense is unbelievable. And I think they can get by even if Darnold isn't at 100%. I mean, the 49ers now, the Eagles should have won that game. I mean, George Kittle's not going to be playing. It's literally just Christian McCaffrey against the world. So I think Seattle and Buffalo definitely advance. But you're right, like the Bears-Rams game, Texans-Patriots, I'm not sure. It depends on what you get out of C.J. Stroud, right? Because that Houston defense is so good. But again, in a year like this that's so unpredictable, I tend to lean into quarterback play and who I trust the most at that spot. So I go with the Patriots, and then for that same reason, I go with the Rams with Stafford. So I think it's Rams, Seahawks in the NFC title, and then I would say Buffalo, New England, which is that's fun for the AFC title.
You know what I haven't looked at yet? The weather.
Yeah, I got to do better at that.
21 degrees at Soldier Field.
Yeah, perfect. I'm sure the Eagles would have did great in that environment this week.
By the way, I'm still pissed off that they rested their starters in Week 18. That is still the biggest Bush League thing I've seen. Oh my God, that was such a terrible thing to do.
That was the theme of this team this year, man. So.
Yeah, pretty much. How can we be more negligent? All right,
how can we be more scared? Yeah,
I'm gonna go with Bears. I'm gonna go Bears over the LA Staffords. I know they're more than that, but just 21 degrees. That's gonna be not so. It's going to be cold. Oh, and it's the night game. It's the 6:30 start time.
Yep. That's right. Someone's going to get their first ring, Mark. If Stafford doesn't win at all, a quarterback's going to get their first Super Bowl. So that's kind of boy. Parody season.
That man's name right there is Louie DiBiase, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you guys are liking and subscribing on Locked On Eagles YouTube channel. Me, Jason Martinez, Harry Mays, we're here but twice a week. Louie's here every day, people. Like and subscribe, all right? We appreciate you guys watching Locked On Eagle Squad show. We should have the full squad back next week. It is 2 squad shows a week in the offseason. And as you probably noticed, that's where we are right now, Eagles fans. Sorry. But we'll be breaking it down all throughout the offseason. Offensive coordinator rumors that are going to be out there, things that will be flying around about Jalen Hurts and Howie Roseman and the draft and all that. We got you covered for it all. Thanks for watching Locked On Eagle Squad show. Like and subscribe. Back with you guys next week. Louie will be with you throughout the week as well. Have a great weekend, everybody. See you.